Quite frankly, I think Trudeau just declared his country to be a dictatorship, not a democracy. It's something that you shouldn't see in the United States, you shouldn't see in Canada, something that you more likely see in places like Venezuela, Cuba, or China. But I want to talk about our government, because the fact that our leaders have not stood up and said anything about this, about our neighbors to the north and what they're doing to their citizens and the robbing of their civil rights and liberties and, quite frankly, their voice, the fact that our leaders have said nothing about it is what truly concerns me, and I believe it's because they relish the idea of doing something very similar in the United States should a convoy come, and I believe that they also want to have that on the table to weaponize against their political opponents.
Tomi Lahren, right-wing blowhard and purveyor of freedom-themed yoga pants that are apparently made in China, made these comments in the wake of Justin Trudeau invoking emergency powers for the first time in Canada's history and froze the bank accounts of donors to the Canadian trucker convoy. Shortly after Lahren made these comments, authoritarian overlord Justin Trudeau unfroze these accounts, which is also a sign of authoritarianism, I think. Lahren and other right-wing media figures have supported these protests, and while you might be surprised that they finally found a protest blocking the streets that they actually like, when you dig a little bit deeper into who's behind it, who's participating in it, who's supporting it, it starts to become a little bit more clear. This freedom convoy, as they like to describe themselves, or as some Canadians like to call the honkening, was put together by a group called United We Roll. And this group, United We Roll, has links to the far right in Canada, and at one point organized a protest to help break up a picket line. United We Roll used its Facebook page to attack Teamsters workers when rail workers in Canada went on strike for a week to demand better pay. This isn't a workers' rights protest. And this protest started because of a new regulation in Canada that would require non-vaccinated truck drivers to quarantine upon re-entering the country for 14 days. So it should come as no surprise that the Teamsters Union came out in opposition to this protest, pointing to the fact that 90% of truck drivers in Canada are vaccinated. To any rational person looking at this, when you see 90% of truckers being vaccinated and the truckers union condemning it, you'd think, oh, maybe this isn't reflective of the general sentiments of truckers in Canada. This is an extremely vocal minority trying to influence people's perceptions of an industry at large. And when Tommy's Fox colleague, Geraldo Rivera, tried to point out that the truckers union does not support this, she deflected.
It is excessive, and it is a national security problem for Canada, and I hope they don't import it, or export it rather, here.
Tommy.
Listen, if you consider people honking their horns and making a convoy to stand up for their rights to be thuggish, well, then we have to have a broader discussion about that. Like I said, I'm sure there are bad apples in the group, but to classify all of these thousands of truckers that are simply standing up for their rights and really the rights of everybody.
The truckers union does not support them.
For everyone.
The truckers union doesn't support them. The trucking companies don't support them.
And while there are some truckers participating in this protest, the overall movement has been co-opted by the far right and business interests, effectively turning this into a pro-business protest. And sure, there are genuine concerns about a government freezing bank accounts of people expressing support for a movement they believe in. That has happened here in the United States for years. The United States has frozen bank accounts of Palestinian organizers and groups supporting Palestine. And if creeping authoritarianism at the executive level is a genuine concern for you, I welcome your support in condemning the Canadian police for brutally assaulting Indigenous protesters in Canada who are trying to block the development of a new oil pipeline. But to get an indication of where Tomi might fall on this issue, we could look no further than her support of police and how she's engaged with other protests around police brutality. You could say authoritarian police brutality. Of course, Tomi has never supported protests against police brutality. She's been a fierce opponent of Black Lives Matter for years. Even the most peaceful protests around police brutality and racial justice in this country has been met with animus from Tomi. For example, last year at the Olympics, Gwen Berry turned away from the American flag during the national anthem And Tommy went on Fox and said this.
This was an attention-seeking display by Gwen Berry. We probably wouldn't be talking about her at all. She was a third-place finisher. We wouldn't probably even know her name if not for this little stunt that she pulled. It would be great if we could be talking about her for her accolades or maybe her love of country, her love of representing the United States, but of course, that is not the case. But when it comes to President Biden and the Democrats as a whole and how they've responded to this situation and others, this is the American Apology Tour 2.0, and at this point, President Biden should just let AOC and the squad do his bidding and speak for him because they are running the show. And we know that this administration has been placating to the movement, placating to BLM since day one, and they certainly cannot reverse that. So whatever the movement decides to do, whatever woke culture decides to do, this administration is going to fall in lockstep with that. It's not at all surprising, but it is certainly disgraceful.
And when NFL players kneeled during the national anthem, well, she had a lot to say about that. Who was that guy she was obsessed with for years? What was his name?
Kaepernick, Colin Kaepernick. Kaepernick, Colin Kaepernick. Kaepernick, crybaby Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick, crybaby Kaepernick. Kaepernick, Cap. Colin Kaepernick, I've got some final thoughts for you, bud.
That's it. It is abundantly clear how Tommy feels about the most peaceful, unobstructive, and quiet protests regarding racial injustice in this country. So after years of seeing Tommy criticize Black Lives Matter for their protest tactics, it's rich to see her celebrating a group of owner-operators and pro-business interests honking their horns all day in Canada. But it was never really about tactics, was it? Because if you protest in the streets, they'll attack you. If you silently protest during the national anthem, they'll attack you. And there's a clip from Comedy Central where she talks about this exact issue and refused to answer exactly how people should protest, but in a better world where copyright isn't restricting us, I would show that here. Google it. This is ultimately about how this fits into their pro-business political worldview. And then once people started digging into who's behind it and what they believe, they found many of their complaints weren't really about the trucking industry at all. This entire spectacle has served as some sort of catch-all for generic right-wing grievances. And while Tommy was never ideologically consistent, you can see a difference in how she talks about Black Lives Matter protests and how she's talking about this protest in Canada. With Black Lives Matter, she wants to unilaterally and summarily dismiss everyone as violent thugs burning down their cities. In Canada, after a huge weapons cache was found in one of the trucks, silence. And there are serious concerns about the authoritarian nature of police in North America and around the world. But in the summer of 2020, when protesters were being assaulted by police night after night, when they were peacefully demonstrating in opposition of George Floyd's murder, where was Tommy? Was that not authoritarian? Time and time again, Tommy has trotted out unilateral pro-police talking points in moments like this. But now, when you have a pro-business protest, she supports it. And that's ultimately what this is about. Right-wing pundits and the police work hand in hand in support of capital.